one of those great decorative techniques that I find fun. The first thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to select our stitch, but let's take a look at some of the stitches on the Baby Lock Zeal we can use. Stitch number H is a great stitch. What you're looking for is stitches that go from the left to the right as almost a complete stitch. H under the stretch setting is a great stitch. A zigzag is a great stitch, which is stitch number C, as is the 3-step zigzag, which is stitch number D. Then you have what I call a rickrack stitch. It's kind of a 3-step zigzag in a sense that there are 3 stitches on each leg of that stitch. And then D under the stretch, which is a honeycomb stitch. That's actually the stitch we're going to select. So we're going to go over to our stitch selector dial and we're going to move that to our D setting. But if we look at this stitch, you'll notice that that is in purple, which means it's a stretch stitch. So on our stitch length dial, we're going to need to adjust that to the SS setting so that we're telling the machine we want to sew out this particular honeycomb stitch. Now the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust my stitch width. I want my stitch as wide as possible because I need to be able to cover all of those decorative threads. So I'm going to set that at a setting of 5. I'm ready to take my standard presser foot off, and I'm going to use an optional presser foot called a cording foot. And in this case you can see that there is a little black guide that sits on top, and then there are 3 holes underneath. I'm going to use the 2 holes that are from the right and then actually the center. This gives me that 5mm width, which is what I have available on the Baby Lock Zeal. Now the first one I pre-threaded, and to keep my threads from sliding all over, sliding out of those holes, I actually tie a big knot at the end. That way if something gets loose, it's going to slide down, it's not going to go anywhere. Now to place that thread in there, I've brought it up to that black guide and I simply just slide it in place and it clicks right in place. On the back side of this presser foot, you'll also see that you have 2 grooves where those threads are going to be placed while you're stitching. They'll ride in those grooves. So place the presser foot in position, and then we'll take a look at 2 other optional cording feet that you have available to you. The first one is, this is actually a 7 groove or 7 hole presser foot. There are 4 holes on the bottom, 3 on the top, and on the back side you have an open space for all of those decorative threads. In this case I would again tie that knot at the back and then feed them through these open holes. You're going to want to use probably the first 2 on the top and then the first 2 on the bottom, which would give you 4 cords. You probably might be able to use that last one on the left for a 5th position. Then our other one is actually a 5 groove. There are 3 on the top, 2 on the bottom. We'll use probably the 2 on the top and then 1 of them on the bottom. Now I've pre-marked my fabric and I'm going to place this underneath the cords or my decorative threads underneath the presser foot and lower that presser foot. I am going to align the cording over that marked line so that my cording sits on each side of that marked line. And I always try to keep my cording from tangling over one another as I'm stitching. It's just a little easier to maneuver. Then I do hang on to that back knot until I start stitching and everything is caught. And you can see what's happening is as I'm stitching, that the stitch that I've selected, which was that honeycomb stitch, stitch number D under the stretch setting, is stitching over my cord, placing it in place or holding it in place. We'll just stitch down to the bottom, and at the end we'll take a look at our beautiful decorative detail. Coming to the end, and when I come to the end, I'm going to take that needle out of the fabric, take my fabric from underneath my presser foot, and you can see those cords just sliding right on through. I'm going to use that built-in needle threader to cut my needle threads, not my decorative threads, and here is our wonderful detail. Once that chalk marker is out of the way, you'll be able to see our cording is attached here and attached there, and we have a decorative stitch sitting over that cording. Just a fun decorative detail you're able to accomplish on the Baby Lock Zeal.